Hello everyone, this is Alex, and today I have no glasses so I cannot see anything. Hello everyone, this is Alex, and today we're talking about orchestral depth. And I'm not talking about depths without the H, which is probably a problem for you if you're doing a career in music. I'm just kidding, music is so fun and it's super lucrative. But anyway, orchestral depth with a H, I can pronounce this H, depth. Thinking about orchestral depth is really the key in orchestration, in my opinion. We learn so much about thematic writing in music school and accompanying melody, but we don't think about just plain chord orchestration. And this is what orchestral depth is all about. You start with something very simple and you add in some layers. You start molding the sound. I always think of myself as a sculptor or something that's sculpting the sound or molding the sound and creating some distance within the different things of the music. And for my students, I always like to use this idea of when you see a painting, a unidimensional painting is sometimes boring, like everything on the same plan, everything on the front on the same layer is kind of boring, right? And it's like a basic orchestration, you just put everything in the front like this. But what if you start to push things back a little bit? Push one forward and one backwards. And what if this one, you start to spread it around like this? And what if this one, you start to add in some other things around here? So trying to give some depth to your sound like this and to create this big picture that is very three-dimensional is what I'm talking about when I talk about orchestral depth. And one person that is excellent into doing orchestral layering is Maurice Ravel. Ravel orchestrated so many of his piano pieces, and it's crazy to see that sometimes the orchestral version seems so much more complex than just the piano versions, which can be done by only two hands. But Ravel used the orchestra to create so much depth into just what the right hand is doing on the piano. He adds in so much things around this idea that the right hand is doing, creating orchestral depth and using the orchestra to its full potential. So this is what I'm gonna show you to do today. So in this video, we'll go through the different steps in going into these different layers, starting from a simple piano reduction. You'll see that I'm gonna do a second version that is very boring, and then I'm gonna start to add in some three-dimensional elements to it, up to a final version that is full of orchestration depth. So to show you the whole process from the start to finish. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, and make sure you consider joining as a member. To all of my members, I give access to the scores that I present for my videos, and some more opportunities for you if you're a composer or orchestrator. Alright, so now let's get into the example I prepared for you today. Alright, so for the video today, we're looking at this simple piano reduction at first. So it's pretty simple, it's just very simple chord progression. We have B major chord on the low F, going on to E diminished 7 chord on the G note as a root, and then A minor chord back to a B major chord. So I wanted to start with something very simple like this to show you the idea of orchestral depth, to show you that it's really an orchestration thing. Whatever the music you're having, it's really all about the orchestration. And even in terms of composing, actually the idea, as I was thinking about this, is that I was gonna have many layers and many movement in my orchestration. So I just wanted to start with this very, very simple lower line here. And the upper line came in afterwards when I thought, well, let's start and try to add in some movement for this chord. So trying to add a little bit of depth to this simple progression by having some neighboring notes and neighboring chords around. These are not like chord changes very much. It's more like on the melodic side a little bit, but you'll hear. Let's leave this in first and we can discuss it a little bit more afterwards. So nothing crazy, and of course something of a little bit of a melodic side to this, but to me it's more about chords here. Touching some chords and some colors of neighboring chords. So let's see, at first we do have a B flat major chord. This is also B flat major, but here we have a F major chord, but it's not like a chord change. We still have our lowest chord here. So it's kind of a, you know, we call that a broderie chord. So a neighboring chord like this, going back onto the B flat here. But these one are staying down here. And then we have these notes that hint of a G minor chord, but we still have these notes as roots. So this is just a neighboring chord, passing chord, or whatever you want to call it. Do we say broderie in English? I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up. Maybe you could tell me. But anyway, afterwards, we have a D minor chord and then A minor chord. So I just wanted to have these kind of hidden progression here within the bar, just to add in some richness to this very simple and straightforward progression. And we have this going through the end. That's a G minor chord, so the same that we have here. It's actually a E diminished 7, but it's part of the chord here. And then here, even like a double fourth chord, and then A minor. And then I even touch on the B natural here to hint E minor. But I'm still, this is still part of the A minor here. So I'm using this very straightforward lower line to add in some little bit of movement up here. But the fact also that it's constant triplets. It's not very thematic in a way. It's not thematic at all. It's very much about like an envelope. I almost call this video orchestral envelope because this is what I feel about this. It's something that sticks together, but the real thing I think is orchestral depth, because once you have this simple thing, adding in a second layer that is related to the first one, this is about creating depth and creating a little bit of like you're sculpting and you're molding the texture of the sound, as I was saying a little bit earlier. So at first I'm going to show you a very boring orchestration, and it's a necessary boring orchestration. I always start simple at first, and maybe this can help you to get through these different steps in adding orchestral depth. I always start with a simple string reduction at first, but here I felt like I needed the woodwinds to do the upper part here. So all of this lower part are the strings, actually the violins, the viola, and the double bass are doing only the last low note. So I added in actually these very low notes here. I thought I needed some like low rumble just to have something final, kind of a cinematic effect at the end, kind of like in a movie trailer or something. At the end, the last chord is very, very low and grounded. And I did add some a little bit of dynamics. I usually don't focus too much on dynamics. We focus a little bit about orchestration, but I was thinking I should talk about dynamics sometimes because they're quite important. But in that case, they're all doing pretty much the same dynamics. And so yeah, in future video, I will try and start to include them. But yeah, so this first simple string and woodwind version, we have our flute and oboe, which are up here, which are doing this upper line. See that we have only 3 notes here, and here we have 4. So it's quite simple. 2 flutes doing the 2 upper lines, and then the upper oboe is actually doing the 3rd one. And I decided to add the octave below from the upper note here. So this is something you can do, because for the piano, it's fine to have such a big distance between the 2 of them. But here we started to need to add some lower the distance between the 2 of them. Start thinking about that actually. And yeah, I'm doing this with my oboe here. Even the lower note, I'm sending them a little bit lower here, so it would look something like this. Yeah, so I finished like this, so we have a little bit less of a distance between them. On the piano, it's okay to have a big like hole between the left and the right hand because of the nature of the instrument. But when you're working with the orchestra, it feels disconnected always when you put too much distance between the two of them. So now it's fine. We have a third, and then a sixth, and then a fifth, and then a sixth, and then a third. So that's much better for the orchestra. So I'm gonna bring back my first arrangement. And yeah, the flute and the oboe are interesting for this because for what I wanted here, they're both in their perfect register. The flute is gonna come out nicely. It goes down to the low A, but it's when the part is piano. And of course, some people would say, oh, even like the oboe is going over the flute, so I just didn't want to repeat these notes. It's not so bad. People would say, we won't hear the flute here because the oboe is going over it, and then it's the low register, right? Of course, it's gonna change the relationship between, or the weight of each note within this, but it's not like non-musical to do that. It's okay for the flute to disappear, for the second flute in that case to disappear for just like a split second and then come back. It's fine. It's not an orchestration mistake, as some could say. We could also think about giving this oboe part to the clarinets. Could have been nice, but I wanted to keep my clarinets for something else. I'll show you afterwards. So let's have a listen to this second version, simple strings and woodwinds. So it's nice because we really have the strings on the bottom and the woodwinds on the top. We really hear them, and they're all pretty well balanced and very. It's a very heterogenetic kind of approach. So you really separate the instruments. I think I talked about this concept before: homogeneity, heterogeneity. If I remember correctly, I'll put the link here for this video. But this is my first simple approach. It's not a good orchestration, I would say. It's not great. It's very basic, but it's a way for me to have a first step into talking about orchestral depth and to start adding some layers within this. Remember, this is all like one thing. It's not something thematic very much. It's not so melodic. It's a little bit melodic, but to me, it just sounds like chords moving, and maybe there's this little line going up and down, but it's not. It's more like a texture in a way. Something that's very useful in film scoring, something that's very useful in contemporary music writing as well, and something that we don't focus so much when we learn about orchestral writing. We mostly focus, like nowadays, programs always focus on writing melodies, writing a good harmony and accompanying melody, good theme and all that. But to me, working on this concept is essential. And wow, well, so I added quite a bit of instruments here. So my goal afterwards was to start to blend the different sections. So this is the third version. See that my flute and oboe are doing the same. They're exactly doing the same. But now they're also joined by the first violin and the second violin. So if we see the upper violin is doing the upper line, and the second violin is doing the like a third line. So this is the one from the oboe. It's the idea of having something that's more imbricated. So we have our two violins, and then we have notes in between with our woodwinds. I don't know if you can see this correctly, but this is the concept. Instead of having like the notes from the two flutes up here played by the first and second violin, this is better in my opinion because holds all of this together a lot more. Instead of having a lot of stuff on the upper register, like the the two flutes and all the violins, and have just the oboes to support this lower part. So it's kind of a first violin is representative of the second flute, and the second violin is representative of the oboe here. Now the lowest string are doing the same. I just added some little things. I started adding some pizzicatos. You know, I like pizzicatos in these, especially in these softer instrumentations, softer orchestrations. We have pizzicato on the first chord, on the second and third chord here. So whenever there's a chord change here, I felt like it was interesting to have these pizzicatos, and I kept my my low B flat as well. But now, yes, I sent this high note here, high part here. I sent it to the viola, and the second violin, or no, the viola here is done by the cello. So it's the second violin that disappeared. This second part, or did it really disappear? It actually went with the clarinet. So I wanted to add this idea of depth. So I told you at first I did the lowest part. I composed the lowest part, just to have this foundation. And then I created this upper line. And then I thought, well, this lowest line, this lowest part, it needs to be a little bit molded also. So I started thinking about having the first beat only the strings with the harp. The harp is also following these, and having a response by these low woodwinds and the horn as well. And see that the low woodwinds here are doing only the second and fourth beat, but the horn is holding the IF, which is above the clarinets, which is an octave higher than the bass clarinet as well. It's holding it all the way through. So this is another level of depth. To me, it's like you're starting to create this multidimensional sound object. So you have the first dimension, which is these long notes. You have even a little bit more of a dimension here, the attack with the double bass, but I would say this is all together, but still it's creating another dimension, of course. And then you have, like I'd say, my main second dimension to this, my main second layer to this are my bass clarinet and clarinets. And within this, there's the horn that's holding, especially in the first part here, that's holding the IF and introducing the G, which I think is a little bit different from here. This one's go G, A, and this one holds the G because it resolves on the F here. Now to this, I added the harp, which is doubling, which is doing a little bit of everything, and that's it. So that's the first step of blending the section and adding what I call adding also orchestral resonance. So it's kind of building depth, building layering, molding multi-dimensional sound, but also adding some resonance to the sound with the horn, which actually you have the attack. Some people are playing bum, and then this one is holding while you have the attacks. It's like when you clap your hands in a room, and then you record this and you watch the sound wave. You have the attack and then the resonance. So here we have some people doing like a kind of a smaller attack. These the harp's actually doing a very short. Actually, a very short resonance here. This one is doing a little bit longer resonance, and this one is doing quite a long resonance. So they're all contributing to the same sound, to the same layer, so adding orchestral depth. So let's now listen to this third version. Pretty cool, huh? So starting to get a lot more of a multidimensional sound to this. And for me, it's really, really a much more interesting orchestration. But I'm not done yet because we can always go more. And the thing is, I felt that there was a lot of doubling. So the first, these upper melody are really related to each other, and these low lines, we don't necessarily need them for the whole duration. There's a concept that I like to think about, and it's about having the listener hear something that is not in the score. So what I mean by that is that you don't necessarily need all of these notes. So I have these long notes, but once you present them at first, this sixth chord, this sixth sound in this area, you don't necessarily need it for the whole duration, for the people to hear it and feel it. Like just an example for this, if you try to do a B major chord, so this is the three notes, B flat, D, F, and then you take off the third. Do you hear minor or major here? You hear it major because I just presented to you with the major third. You don't hear it like that. Like this is a surprise here because I presented the B flat major. Did I say B major or this is B flat major? I presented it multiple times, so it's stuck in your head now. So what I mean by all this is that you can start to take things off once you present them, once you introduce them, because the listener will hear it. And this way, it will create a lot more orchestral depth, a lot more layering to your sound. So let's have a look at my final version here. And what did I do with this? So a lot more things. So now it's getting more complex. So we started from this very simple thing, and then we got two versions later into this. So let's just try and understand what's going on here. So let's go section by section. I compared the two of them. I'll try to compare them. So you see that this upper line done by the flutes and the oboe is not done completely now. It's only the second and fourth beat landing on the note here. And what we see here is that the violins are doing the first and the third beat. So they're exchanging. So this idea of blending the sounds of the instruments, it's a good way to do this, to have it shift from one to the other, and to add a little bit of lightness to the sound, start to add in some more layering into your sound, because this doubling, constant doubling, might sometimes at some point feel heavy. It's okay to do doublings, of course, it's fine, but be wary that if you do too much of them, the ear will fatigue. So this is a compromise. I exchanged the notes, and I think only at the end they come together here. But even the violins are doing a different line. This is not there here. It's actually adding in a little bit of contrapoint down here, so that the flutes and the oboes go up there, go to this upper register by themselves. But otherwise, this is the core of the thing. This is the base. The base of the thing is still there. We have a little piccolo here that's doing some of the notes. So this is inspired by the part of the horn. But the fact that the piccolo is up there all alone and can play soft in these register as well really got me to think that, yeah, this one can be a little bit behind. It's up there, but it's behind. It's not moving so much. So you hear it, but it's more like of a resonance. It's like a resonance to this sound, to maybe the horn note here. But it's going down, and it's actually going to the yeah, it's actually pairing here with the second flute. So the first flute is going above. Now if we just focus on the woodwind still, what I had here with my clarinets and bass clarinets and horns, so this was supposed to be the lower part of the arrangement, so the lower part of the reduction, piano reduction. But I felt like I needed my clarinets to do something a little bit or crazy. I wanted them to move around and give some color to the sound. In this middle register, still playing very piano, very soft, to give some vibration to the sound. Not necessarily adding any kind of thematic element. Again, adding depth to your sound, adding a layer to your sound, creating some more of a 3D effect to it. So I needed to free up my clarinets, so I brought in my bassoons to do this part here, which the clarinets are doing, and the English horn to do the bass clarinet part. So I got now my full woodwinds. I think only the contrabassoon is not here. I thought about using it, but it's a little bit too intense for this section, I thought. So before getting into the rest, let's just listen to the woodwinds of this final version. Interesting, right? And having also the last chord to keep this kind of energy going, because it's all about energy. The rhythm is very much about energy. If you have this, and then you have the final chord, you could finish just there, but there's still some energy from the first and second bar that's not completely ended. So it's like you want to give a little bit more for it to feel final, right? So I added this little final arpeggio here, as well as the response on the second beat. This is actually there in my third version here, and I like to do this just listening to the woodwinds. Are they functioning correctly? Is there something that's is there a note that's going on top of another note? Like you see, there's a lot of overlapping, especially the clarinet and the oboe here, and the flute as well. So all of these three instruments are very much on top of each other, and I try my best so that it's not so noticeable, to really have the same notes from the chords that they present, and from the passing chords here, making sure that the notes that I present are really following this. So I always have, like if you have a second monitor, or if you can just print your piano reduction when you're working with the orchestra, it's very useful to have it right there and always looking at it. Am I doing something that interferes with what I had here? Because it's easy when you go to the orchestra afterwards, and then start adding some notes, and start like doubling things an octave higher. Of course, you need to do that, but sometimes you do it and you realize, oh no, I'm overlapping with another thing, and it creates now an interval that's disturbing. So just be mindful of that. Always have your piano reduction in front of you. Now the brass instrument. So we have two horns here. So I thought about using only two horns for this, not go crazy with this because it's very soft. I used one trumpet. It's actually one note from one trumpet played two times. So at first here, the D. Notice that it's an octave higher than the horn. It's effective in terms of pitch when you're writing things in the horn section, to have something with octaves. If you listen to it, let's just listen to these three instruments. There's kind of a relation with the three of them, and they come from the same section, so I thought it was important for them to be linked to each other. And they're really there to add more depth to the sound. And the second horn and trumpet are really bringing in actually something else, because it wasn't there before. We didn't have anything on the third beat here, nothing coming in on the third beat. But here I thought, well, there's a space there. Nobody's playing there. And I want to keep this kind of resonance effect going. So at first I introduced the horn on this note here, and then adding in this higher trumpet an octave above. And having them on the final chord at the end really just brings everything together, just add some support and some brightness to your sound at the end like this. Even if they play piano, they're really blended. They're not troubling anything. It's just gonna make like a very dense sound, but soft. So don't hesitate to use your brass instrument even in softer parts. We usually think about them only for like the intense stuff, but they can play very nice notes, very nice, soft and beautiful notes to support the rest of the orchestra. And before we see our string section, let's have a look at our percussion. So I added vibraphone to add some resonance. Again, resonance, and see that I have my legato line. It means that all of these notes are kind of blended through the pedal. So the vibraphonist holds down the pedal, and all of these notes will carry on until here. So there will be a little friction between the B flat, A, and G, but to me it starts to create this very wide sound, very resonant sound, and same thing afterwards. And you see right at the end I put a slur here to make sure that I have my 3 notes for my chord here. So we kind of have on the first beat and first 16 note, a blur between F and G, very, very subtle, and then the last chord here. I got like a little triangle action here, nothing crazy, just to add some brightness to your sounds, just have some depth. And then my harp is there from the part before. So let's just listen to the percussions now. And this is the idea, like keeping the foundation while adding more depth, trying to keep what I add at first. If I'm suppressing things, since I'm taking off things, like I'm taking off some of the notes here on the lowest part of the strings, I didn't talk about that yet. I have these guys, like the horn and the bassoons, and now I added in the bass clarinet, I added in the third horn, and the trumpet. These are all doing this part actually now, carrying this part the whole way. So I'm presenting the notes here from the chord, and these ones are carrying them through another timbra and through L notes. This is tremolo notes. So it's a little bit different. It's like transforming, but it's still the same gesture, and you can still feel it there. So this is what I was talking about earlier. You don't need the violas and the cello doing this the whole way for us to feel the chord beneath, especially if the chord is moving between different instruments here and there. And now let's hear this full final version of this exercise for orchestral depth. So this final version is very different from where we started, but I think to add this depth creates music that is much more sophisticated, that is much more personal, because you can go so many different ways. You can make so many different choices through this process. So I'm interested to hear what you think about this video. Don't hesitate to leave a comment down below, and thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.